Hi, this is Kiana Miner. Welcome to Crazy Courage TV, where we are busting success myths and learning to live more courageously. Today, we are going to have an awesome conversation. We are talking to Angela Matthews. Angela is in marketing and reputation management. She does work for a nonprofit and has done quite a bit of traveling in her life. So I'm sure we're going to have an awesome and inspiring conversation. Thank you for being here, Angela.
Of course, hi. Extremely happy to be here. Thanks for
Awesome,
having me.
awesome. So, Angela, the first question we always start out with is if you could just let us know a little bit more about you, about your heart, and tell us about your most courageous moment.
Sure, of course. So, again, my name's Angela, and I am a marketer specifically within reputation management and social media. What I really strive to do is help people leverage social media technology to kind of form their reputations online and make sure that it's kind of seamless on and offline.
Mhm.
So, that's my main goal, and that's the thing that I really try to help people with. The most courageous thing I think I've ever done, which there are quite a few, but one of them I think was just kind of closing up shop, packing my bags, and going to India for 6 months. And I
Oh,
think that was probably the most courageous thing because it made no sense. It was about 6 or 7 years ago. I was studying for the LSATs, and I just thought,
wow.
I don't want to go to law school and I need to figure it out. So I'm going to go and escape everyone asking me, why aren't you going to law school?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So we're definitely going to dive right on into that. So you were preparing for the LSAT. You thought you wanted to be a lawyer.
I did.
Okay.
Which
What?
most people who are really smart and don't know what to do think. They just think, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know the next job. I don't know to move. I guess I'll study for the LSATs and maybe get into law school. And then you go through the whole thing. You get the LSAT scores. You're okay. You apply to law school, and then you're just praying for something to save you. A lot of people are just like, please, something, anything like. And for most, it does, and for some, it doesn't. But they end up happy lawyers.
Okay. You know what? I love that you say that because that was me junior year of college. I totally thought I wanted to go to law school. And I think it was that same situation. It was like, well, I don't really care for science, so I'm not going to be a doctor. So what else is there? I could be a lawyer, you know. I got the book. I started studying for the LSAT, but I'm lucky, I was I guess one of the lucky ones that realized this isn't this
Yeah.
isn't for me. Yeah. So what kind of told you, like, if you can think back, how long has it been since you've had that experience?
So I'm a serial entrepreneur and I'm also location independent. So I travel quite a bit
Okay.
since. Like I've spent time in Europe, I've spent time in Asia about 3 times now. So since that one 6 month trip, I've gone back again. I've gone to Vietnam. I've gone to Thailand for
Okay.
maybe 3 to 4 weeks at a time.
Okay.
So I think the thing that motivates that is just that when you go, you realize there's a different kind of education you get that you can't really get sitting at home in four walls with a book, right?
Mhm.
The thing is, and there's something really special about going over to meet someone that might not necessarily have the circumstance to come and meet you where you are. And
Okay.
so the way I look at it is there's so many people in the world that are waiting to meet me,
Mhm.
but they're good luck getting in, to America these days.
Right.
Just sit down for coffee.
Right. Okay, I love that perspective, and I love how you look at it. How, uh, just to get into your mental state at the time when you took that first trip to go to India, how did you get up the courage to do that? To say, you know what, this isn't for me, and I'm going to go a different way, and I'm going to go exploring in a different country. Like, could you talk a little bit more about that transition and how you
Sure.
got
It took a lot mentally, I think, to make the shift. A lot of it was just really doing an assessment of whether or not I was happy here
there?
in the States and what I was doing to make myself happy. And
Hmm.
so a few years ago, prior to that, was I had a really bad accident I had a really bad accident um, in Mexico, traveling like on vacation.
Okay.
And after that accident, I realized that, if I'm not doing something with my life that I love, then I'm doing something wrong because when you have a near death experience, it can go either way with survivor's guilt. Either you can be extremely happy or you can have survivor's guilt. What am I doing? And so if
Mhm.
you're not doing something you love, the survivor's guilt can really actually like, wrangle with you. And
Okay.
so then reflecting on that moment, I remembered I started feeling itchy again. And I started feeling, well, I'm not doing something I love. I'm not happy. What's going on? And in the end of the day, we're in charge of our happiness. No one else is.
Right.
And in the end, everyone wants us to be happy, but it's up to us to figure out how to make that happen.
Mm.
And so that was kind of the thought process I had before taking the jump.
Mhm.
And also, I was in a relationship that I was really ready to end as well. So
Okay.
that also
That
was just
always
like, you
does
know what?
it.
I'm done. It's time.
Mhm. Okay.
I
I
need to
love.
rescue myself. It was a rescue myself moment. I realized that I was the only one that can do it.
Okay, that's beautiful. Rescue myself. I love that, and I love how you describe it as itchy, because that is exactly how it feels. It feels itchy, and you're trying to scratch it, and you're just like, I don't know how to release the itch. That's a
Exactly.
great way to describe it.
hmm
So, okay, talk about. Can you talk about starting your business and talk about the travels? Tell us more about your business and how you started that.
Yeah, of course. So I started actually out in social media. The company was called AM Social Media. And so it's still there. It's just an umbrella under my current company. And so I came back, I went to India, and I ended up volunteering a good amount of my time with a not for profit called Isha. And what we did was a reforestation project. And these people actually broke the Guinness Book of World Record for most saplings planted in one day. It was like a million and something ridiculous. So I thought that was pretty amazing. And I worked with them on digital PR to get the word out about all the great things they were doing. And it
Mhm.
was extremely successful. I
Okay.
got put in charge of their digital initiatives um, for the West, which was a really big deal considering I didn't have that much experience, but I spoke English, so I qualified. And
Okay.
it was fine. But what was really beautiful about it is when I got back to the States, I thought, well, I don't really want to go back to that 9 to 5 hustle bustle,
Right.
which was also a part of the feelings that I had before I went to India. I was really burned out in a career that wasn't really satisfying. And I just literally worked 85 hours a week.
Oh my
You
goodness.
know, it was really intense and it was
Okay.
time for a break. So I came back to the States and I started interviewing. And as I was interviewing, I started getting that itchy feeling, that feeling, in your head or in your spirit saying that, you don't want this,
Right.
similar to the feeling that I got when I was studying for the LSAT.
Right,
Like,
right.
you're just playing right now,
Right.
you know? And
Definitely.
so after that, I really thought about it. And someone said, why don't you just do social media? And why don't you just do the stuff you were doing for free in India? And I said, you know what? I'm going to try that.
Okay.
And so I went, I naturally had a really good grasp of marketing because I can connect dots that usually people can't see, but for me are obvious. And I think it comes from the analytical or analogical rather background, which is
Okay.
why law school and stuff kind of resonated.
Mhm.
So after doing that, I just opened up shop, and it's been about 3.5 years since. And since then, I've transitioned into using social media to build online reputations.
Okay. Okay. Very awesome. I love your transition into that, and I love what you stand for and what your company stands for. What can you tell us? Any really awesome projects or anything that stands out that you've worked on in those
Sure,
3.5 years?
absolutely. So one of the things that I'm really big on is people using the influence that they have to make the world a better place. A lot of people think that it's not until I get this big and I'm up
Mhm.
here that I can actually start affecting change in people's lives. And
Mhm.
it's really just not true. And for me, the way I think about it is, well, if you don't train yourself now when you're like this you, how do you think you're going to handle it when you're this you? It's
Mhm.
kind of like a growth process, like anything. So for me, one thing that I'm extremely proud about right now is my work with Boys Town, New York. Boys Town is a not-for-profit in the country of the United States, 100 years old, but in New York specifically 25. And what they strive to do is to make lives better for at-risk kids. And so what's really nice is that I can take my marketing skills and my, all the clout that I have and merge these partnerships for this organization that really gives back so much. And I can talk to kids that are just like me from New York City, born and raised, and let them know that there's a huge world out there and it's nothing like New York City, but they
Okay.
should absolutely see it. And
Oh,
so I think that's kind of one of my biggest accomplishments
okay.
to date is merging my worlds.
Okay, that's awesome. You seem to talk a lot about giving back and really having an influence and impacting the world. Where does that come from?
I've always, not
Mhm.
always, but from the sense that I time I realized that I had power to
Okay.
do things, that's when I started realizing it. And I also started thinking, well, if I were in that same position
Mhm.
and I knew there were people who had the ability to do something about it and
Mhm.
literally chose not to,
Right.
I don't know how I'd feel horrible.
Right.
I would absolutely feel horrible. So
Mhm.
for me, this is kind of what makes me happy. And this is the
Right.
tax that I have to pay, making other people happy.
Okay.
And so I really just want to let people know that it doesn't, you can see someone that's homeless, you can adopt a person for a year. Just be nicer to them. Tell someone that they're pretty today. It doesn't,
Mhm.
little things you can do to really make
Mhm.
an impact on someone's life. It's
Mhm.
there.
I I love that. And I think you're right. I think we all have the capacity to make a difference. And so many times we put it into the future. Like, okay, well, when I'm making $1 million or when I'm making this or doing that, then I'll have influence. I'll have more to give or
Hmm.
whatever. But we all have that personal power in ourselves. And we can all, I mean, just telling someone they're great or telling someone thank you for something that they did for you could make a world of difference. So, yeah, I think that's amazing.
Absolutely. And a lot of
Mhm.
people that find that they are introverted. So I was a natural introvert.
Oh,
I worked really hard to overcome it. I mean,
mhm.
like, and I do little activities. Like I mean, I once laid down in the middle of the street just because it was weird. And I knew if I could do that, I could probably do anything. Like just things to like bust you out, like
Was this in
training
New York?
in New York. It was so weird.
That's
It was
funny.
so weird. But you just gotta like flex that muscle. And if you are an
Mhm,
introvert, or if you do want to do something courageous, for me, that's your spirit and that's the world letting
mhm,
you know they actually need you to do it.
mhm,
And honestly, if you just do it, it'll probably work
mhm.
out just fine.
Okay,
It's just you that's kind of going counter to it. And so
right.
you really have to learn how to manage your machinery.
Oh yeah, I love that management machinery. And yeah, I consider myself an introvert too. And it's flexing the muscle and also recognizing my own strength. You know, like
Hmm.
I know introverts tend to feel very deeply. They tend to care a lot.
Yes.
And they
And
tend to need like silence. So I give myself moments of silence,
hmm
moments where things are quiet and I can nurture that part of myself, but still getting out there and making sure that I'm able to tell my message. So I love that you pointed that out.
Yeah, it's completely fine. And honestly, I just wrote an article for the Huffington Post called Three Simple Ways Introverts Can Use
Oh,
Social Media. And seriously, I mean, we have a unique voice.
hmm
And people, I think, need to hear it because I feel that introverts take the time to notice things that are going around.
right. Yes, definitely.
So,
Definitely.
yeah.
So tell me, what do you do for self care? What are some of your ways to make sure you maintain balance in your life?
Well, I meditate every day. And
Okay.
I learned that when I went away to India.
Obviously.
So it's like, how can you go here? It's like going to the mall and not buying anything. Right?
Right, right.
Yeah, you
hmm
come out meditating. So
Okay.
I learned how to meditate, and I try to really think and talk positively to myself. Someone once told me that I think a ridiculous high amount of thoughts, about 90% of what we think to ourselves,
hmm
ends up being negative and self doubt. And
hmm
so I'm my toughest critic. We all are our toughest
Of
critics.
course.
And because I know where I want to go in the future,
Right.
recognizing the accomplishments that I've somewhat already had, to me, they
hmm
seem so little, but actually they're like pretty significant and they're stepping stones that I need. So
hmm
that's one of the things that I've been really conscious of. It's
Okay.
actually recognizing, like, you know what, you're the chairman of a board. Like, that's huge. Like, that's great. That's kind of one of the things I've wanted. But I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's just not enough. Like, I need to
Right.
do more. Like who are you? And
Right.
so recognizing that person inside of me that's so critical when it comes out and saying like, who are you? Like really? Like you worked really hard. Like come on, can we just take a break right now and like appreciate this and those that
hmm
helped us get there?
Right.
So
Okay. I
I
love
think that's like a
that.
huge self maintenance too.
Yeah, I think I want to say that's the first time someone has mentioned positive self talk as self care. And I think that's such an important part when we talk to ourselves, like when we're not even our own friends,
Mm-hmm.
that, and we're beating ourselves up and we're super critical. I think that, yeah, that can really prevent us from giving our best to the world. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's so true,
hmm
and we burn out sometimes, and sometimes honestly like we can just easily hop out of it and just be thankful for everything we've done and realize the ripple that we're causing.
Okay. As far as meditation, did you study a specific form of meditation when you were in India?
I did. I actually went to. There's a man named Satguru, and so he does a course called Inner Engineering, which is also in the states. Coincidentally enough, I don't know why I had to go all the way to
Right.
India
I think that's
to find.
cooler. Right.
But if anyone wants to Google Inner Engineering, it's a wonderful course.
Okay.
And also, there's a wonderful app called Headspace.
I
Um,
love Headspace. I recommend it to all my students. And the people who have the hardest time meditating consistently have really broken through. And I love it. I love Headspace.
Yeah,
So,
so that's the other one that I also recommend. For me, I don't use it as much, but all the people that I've recommended meditation
mhm,
use Headspace, they actually use it. So
right.
I feel completely confident
Right.
recommending it.
That it works. Right. Right. So, did you know about did you go to India to do inner engineering or you just found it while you were there?
It found me kind of
Okay.
actually. So it's one of those things where I actually met someone at a wedding, and
Mhm.
he was a older gentleman in his 60s, 65. We
Okay.
were staying in the same town, and one day we were meeting for coffee, and he said, "So what are you doing in India? You're here for a long time." And I'm like, I really want to help, but if you go to India, there is so much help and need that you almost don't know what to do. It's like when you walk into a room that is just so cluttered and so messy, you
Mhm.
almost like just want to walk out because
Right.
I don't know what to do with this.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I told him, I want to just kind of give back, but I want to give back to something that has like that has actual teeth in the game, someone that's like respectable. I can like dabble and really make an impact. And I don't speak Hindi, so
Yeah.
they need to speak English too. And he said, yeah, I know this organization. They're great. They have a reforestation project. They
Okay.
have yeah, you know where this is going. Yeah, they have a reforestation project. They have a homeschool. They
Mhm.
go out to rural villages and give vaccinations. I'll hook you up. You just have to do like an orientation program.
Right.
And it ended up being inner engineering, and it was with the organization that I ended up volunteering for a couple months on the
Okay.
reforestation project. So a
Okay.
marketer got me into it without even telling me what I was buying.
Right, of
Like
course.
he totally just marketed what I wanted, and
Right, right.
so that's how inner engineering found me. But
Okay.
it's wonderful, wonderful course. I think they even have an online edition now.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
So
so
3 days
cool.
definitely changed my life.
Okay, okay. So, do you still travel? Is that still a really important part of your lifestyle?
hmm
Okay.
It is a really important part of my lifestyle. Actually, I thought I was going to be in Vietnam around this time now
Oh,
because
okay.
it's so cold. And I said I didn't want to be cold anymore,
Right.
but I actually decided to stay. I just had one of those feelings that,
Mhm.
you should stay, you should stay, you should
Mhm.
stay. And I stayed. And I'm based in New York City, but I'm hoping to leave again in the summertime to
Okay.
possibly go to Europe for a month or so.
Ooh, that sounds
Yeah.
awesome. If you don't mind, if I can ask a little bit about the logistics of that, because I know there are
Sure.
people who are interested in that kind of lifestyle where
hmm
you can travel. How do you work that out logistically? Do you own in New York? Do you just rent for short amounts of
hmm
time? Like, how do you work that out?
So at the moment, because I thought I was leaving, I'm completely location independent in terms of now I'm looking to rent something
Okay.
at the
Mhm.
moment, just because I know I'm going to be here for a little bit. But I
Mhm.
will probably sublet.
Oh, okay.
Sublet. I know New York City isn't extremely super friendly with Airbnb, but a lot of my peers, when we travel, we
Mhm.
Airbnb our places. And if you're an entrepreneur or looking to be an entrepreneur, I think being an entrepreneur gives itself an easier lifestyle to do that,
Mhm.
to be location independent. And if you extremely are really thinking about getting into it, there's a blog that I follow as well as a podcast called the Tropical MBA. And
Okay.
the Tropical MBA is pretty much location independent lifestyle businesses. And they give you all the tools, the tips, and the tricks you need. And they interview people who are already doing it on the ground. And
Interesting.
so when I actually went away to Vietnam, it was fine. I didn't have a place to stay within 24 hours. I had dinner plans. Next day, someone walked with me, find my studio apartment, got
Right,
my
right.
studio apartment within 48 hours. I
Wow.
was just, so community is a really big thing. I would definitely advise if anyone wants to do something like this,
Mhm.
find a community that's already ingrained
Okay.
because traveling has its ups and downs and you still have to break through your comfort zone. And so there are a lot of things that you aren't aware of that if you knew before leaving, you'd really appreciate.
Okay.
So Tropical MBA, and they also have a private membership group called the Dynamite Circle, which is
Okay.
the guys that helped me plan travel plans.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a great resource. I have to check that out. Tropical MBA.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. So there are three questions, kind of my surprise questions that I ask everyone who's on the show. So just
I
answer
love
them
it.
with
I love it.
oh, thank you.
Surprises.
They're not too bad. Just answer them with whatever comes up for you first. So
Okay.
what is your favorite book?
Okay. So I just read a book maybe about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago called The
Hmm.
Celestine Prophecy. And a lot of people know about this book. I
Right.
don't know where I've been.
You're
Maybe it finds you when you need it, but I
right,
totally
right.
needed
It's
it
that
when I
kind of
found
book.
it.
Yeah, totally that kind of book.
Yeah, it's from the 90s, so I'm just like,
Right,
okay. But I loved it.
right. Okay.
I absolutely loved it. It definitely was what I needed at the right time, and it prepared me for a lot of the things that are happening right now.
Oh, very cool. I have not read the book, but I did see the movie, and I saw it recently, like in the last 2 years, and I was like, oh my gosh, this has been here.
See, I didn't even know there was a movie. Now I
Yeah,
gotta watch that.
yeah. The movie's good, but I'm sure, as always, it probably pales in comparison to the book. So I know
Yeah,
having reading that book is on my list. I actually have the audio book, so I'm gonna have to read it now.
you should definitely listen to it. And I think, do you meditate?
I do, yes.
Yeah. So I think once you meditate and then you read, it's just a lot of things click.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, what about your favorite guilty pleasure?
I think my favorite guilty pleasure is probably, so I like adventure. So I have adventure days.
Okay.
Um
Oh, cool.
and adventure days are kind of when I take a business meeting and I turn it into an adventure. So usually they're Fridays, and it's, if we have a meeting on Friday,
Hmm.
it's not going to be at a coffee place, it's not going to be at office,
Right.
like we're doing something, like we're going to a museum, we're going to go see a movie, like we're living life, because I work too hard and you work too hard, so this is
Right.
going to be like a really good memory for something.
Right.
And so beyond the scope of business.
Okay.
So I think my guilty pleasure is kind of like adventure days. And I also do my own adventure days where I'll just literally walk around New York City and do nothing. Like I will look at a person, I will sit and look at a building, at an architecture. I'll just sit there and waste time. And
Hmm.
when you're an entrepreneur, you feel guilty when you do, like when you just
Right.
lavishly let the time
Right.
go by.
Right. That
So
is
I
a
think that's
guilty
kind of like my guilty
pleasure.
pleasure. Everyone's like, isn't that what you're supposed to do? But
Right.
when you run your own business,
Right. Right.
it's 24/7. You're
It
on
is,
all the
right.
time.
You're constantly thinking of ideas. I got a massage yesterday and I'm on the table like, oh, if only I could reach my purse so I can write this down. This is a good one. So
Like,
yeah, I
where's my
can.
Evernote?
Right, right, right. Yeah, that's awesome. And I think New York is like the perfect city to just like walk around and find stuff
Hmm.
or whatever. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
that's cool. Okay, and the last one is, what is a habit that you had to hardwire into yourself? Something that didn't come natural, but you really had to work at in order to be as successful as you are today.
Completion.
Completion. Talk more about that.
Completion.
Right.
So for me, I'm a Gemini,
Okay.
and most Geminis, it's like you get so many ideas in 1 second, and everything's like a new idea. Like everything is evolving, everything is changing.
Right.
And so you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to do this. And then you end up having so many incomplete projects, and you remember doing
Mm,
so many things, but then when you go back and think, so whatever happened, you realize that you didn't really, well, I realized I didn't really complete anything. So
okay.
I had all these products I was launching, none complete. I had all these relationships and business cards that I collected, none complete. So,
Mm,
and even at the later stage, even just recently, I started realizing that it's important for me to complete my relationships.
okay.
So, if I'm working with someone, say on a client project, and actually having a completion talk, like, so this is it, this is how it went. It was like a pleasure, an honor to work with you. Like
Mhm.
actually closing it and getting that closure. So I think that's kind of a habit that I've I've actually realized has like bettered me as a person and
Mhm.
also my business. Just
Okay. Okay.
completing.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and I love how you talk about that. Are there any tools that you use, like any systems that you use to make sure that you do complete
Hmm.
things? Mhm.
So I use Contactually a lot for my
Okay.
contacts. So
Okay.
Contactually is a system, it realizes if you hadn't reached out to someone in a couple days,
Mhm.
or if I tell someone like great meeting them and I'm gonna do something, I put it into an actual bucket in
Oh,
Contactually. So
nice.
every time I
Okay.
log in, it's like you've got this bucket of like I know
Right.
promises, because I'm one of those people that like if I can help, I'll help and I'll
Right.
say it.
Right.
But you need to like sometimes like say like, hey, do you remember this? Because it
Mhm.
falls through the cracks. So I've been using that a lot. I use for scheduling easier, I use Assistant too. So some people use Calendly, but for
Mhm.
me, I find Assistant too extremely easy because if someone says let's meet, I
Mhm.
used to just leave it in the inbox and say like, yeah, I'll do the calendar thing later. But
Okay.
in Assistant too, I just insert times that work and they click one.
Oh,
So
cool.
and it
Okay.
sends an invite to them as well as
Mhm.
myself, and it's done. Three
Oh,
emails
great.
saved.
Okay.
So
Okay.
those are
Nice.
kind of tools that I use, like techie tools that have really helped out.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Those sound awesome. Great. Great. Okay. So what are you working on now? What is on your plate for you and your business?
So right now, I'm working on reputation management for people who've actually committed anything right up until a white collar crime. So these are people who've either been disbarred, people who have done something in the past, and
Mhm.
the internet, someone wrote something about them on the internet, and it's actually having a huge ripple effect in their life. So for me, I'm really big on forgiveness. I'm really big on second chances. We all make mistakes, and God help us all if like our worst mistakes were caught and people actually like expose them. Like I don't know what
Absolutely.
anyone would do. So for me, I really feel for these people because you made a mistake, you learned your lesson, you did your time, paid your fines, whatever it is. But the ripple effect of this, it's just not an entire whole story of what actually happened and what you're doing now. So maybe, a day of your life has just seriously affected the entire like past 5 years.
Okay.
So working with people who really want to clear that up and
Okay.
take their reputation from negative to neutral to positive,
Oh,
and
wow.
interlacing that with not-for-profit philanthropy
Mhm.
and giving them things to do to prove they're a good person
Okay.
also excites me because I get to give back and make other people give back.
Okay. Okay. I love that. Yeah, that's a very unique positioning too, a unique service offering. That sounds really great. And I think with the internet and how easy it is to kind of for someone's mistake to go viral and for other people to find it, yeah, that sounds like a really great service offering.
Yeah, and if I can give just like three tips to anyone who wants to think about like their online reputation,
Okay.
I would definitely say, social media is a really great tool
Mhm.
for conquering internet results. So if you Google anyone, chances are their LinkedIn, their Twitter, their Facebook
Mhm.
comes up, top three. If you've got articles out there, you can possibly make a Wikipedia page of yourself if you have other references, which also trumps a lot of other internet results.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you can also, if you do any not for profit or give your service or time away, granted you're not asking for financial things, but you can just say, "Can you just mention me on your website?"
Okay.
And that's another link on
Okay.
top of the other stuff that's also highly ranked.
Okay, awesome. Those
So,
are great
three
tips.
tips.
Right, right, yeah. Those are great tips. Well, our time is almost coming to an end. Gosh, that was really a really great conversation, and it went so fast.
Really fast.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any last thoughts on courage or, social media, your business, anything you wanted to say?
Um, there's a quote that I live by, and I learned it actually when I was in Spain. And usually, when you're lacking courage or when you're feeling that you need it, or you're telling people that you're doing something, a lot of times they ask like, "Are you mad? Are you crazy?" And there's a Don Quixote quote, and it's called "Madness. What is madness?" Like, who says like there should be mad? Like, who says anyone should be mad? Maybe too much sanity is madness, and the
Mm,
maddest of all is to see life as it is and not as it ought to be.
okay.
So I would definitely say, like, if you have an inkling that you want to do, if you really feel that in your spirit, something needs to change, or you're looking to take a big, bold move, don't ask permission from, don't ask if it's okay from other people. Ask yourself if it's okay.
Okay. Okay. I love that, and I love too much sanity is madness. I wholeheartedly agree with that. We have
Exactly.
courage. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Angela, for being here. It's been just such a pleasure talking to you, getting to know you, and hearing about your life and business.
Absolutely, as well as you. Like, I'll have to have you on my podcast.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds
Yeah.
great. And we'll definitely put a link to your website below. But do you want to just tell people where they can learn more about you?
Sure. Well, you can find me at social Ange, which is just my Twitter handle. I microblog there. And if you want, you can just find me at amsocialmedia.com, which routes to my consulting site.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm very accessible, very responsive. You can just shoot me an email and I'll respond.
Okay, awesome, awesome. That sounds great. And thank you everyone for being here and joining in this conversation with me and Angela. We would love to hear from you. So go over to crazycourage.com where you can answer our question of the week. And let's see what can I ask you this week? Let me know one way that you're going to one adventurous thing you're going to do this week. Something that maybe you haven't done before, something maybe you've just been thinking about, but one adventurous thing you're going to do this week. So I look forward to hearing from you. Leave a comment below. And until next week, this is Kiana Miner wishing you much love, much joy, and crazy, crazy courage. See you next week. Bye.
See you guys. Bye.
If you enjoyed that episode of Crazy Courage TV, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. The conversation doesn't have to end here. Come on over to crazycourage.com where you can answer the question of the week, which is, what's one adventurous thing you're going to do this week? Leave a comment below. I would love to hear from you. And choose something that kind of freaks you out. That's where the real fun comes from. Everyone who answers the question of the week below will be entered into the giveaway. This week, I'm giving away a copy of my book, Daily Dose of Crazy Courage. This book will remind you of just how courageous you really are and help you jump out of your comfort zone and into the life you really want to live. Don't forget, Crazy Courage TV airs every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. I look forward to seeing you next week. If this show has encouraged you to do something outside of your comfort zone, to be bigger and bolder in the world in some way, I want to hear from you. Use the link below to share your story with me. Until next week, this is Kiana Miner wishing you much love, much joy, and crazy, crazy courage.